All right, everyone, we have Aashish Desai here. Very impressive career, 28 years in class action litigation. You own your own law firm out here in Southern California and also in in Austin, Texas, right? And then do cases all over the country.
That's right. Thanks. Good to meet you and good to be here, Wes.
Thank you very much for the time. I'm fascinated. Number one, I want to hear your origin story that you can teach the audience. So why don't we go through that, and then I want to transition into the business of the practice. I've talked to a lot of attorneys throughout my time in finance, and most of them don't own their own firms. So I'd be really curious about that. But how'd you get started?
Well, I got started like most people. I started in college by working hard and developing a great career as a guitar player.
Nice.
When I went to college, I went to UT Austin, which is where I'm from. I'm from Texas.
Mhm.
And while I was going to college, I played in a bunch of bands. And that was what I thought I was going to do. And lo and behold, I came to California to go to music school. I actually went to MIT, as my dad would say. Not that MIT.
Yeah.
It was Musicians Institute of Technology in Hollywood.
Okay.
My dad was very proud of me. He said, my son, he's going to MIT after all. And his friends would say, well, what's he studying? You know, engineering, science? What is this? He's going to be lead guitar player, jazz and blues.
Yeah.
Anyway, after I went to music school, I soon learned that I love music, and I still play to this day. But the business of music, to dovetail what you're talking, I soon realized and saw the writing on the wall that this was not a place to go to be basically a side player. You know, a lead guitar player is a side guy. I'm not even the lead singer, right, in any band I would ever be in. So it soon dawned on me that it would be very difficult to make a living doing this. And so I went back to law school and went to University of Houston, but that's how I eventually got into the law.
Now, when you transition there, because you're already showing signs of like, hey, I'm business minded. I'm not just going to be a starving artist. I actually want to grow something that could pay the bills, could pay for my family, et cetera. You now transition into law. What category of law, and then was the goal always to own your own business?
It wasn't always. You know, when you're in law school, it's really for a lot of people, it's kind of an escape to get out of wherever it is that they're at. They know they have some aptitude. I always knew I liked talking, and whenever I was growing up and, you know, my group of friends would get in trouble, I'd be the guy that would let Aashish handle it. You know, let him go talk to him. Maybe he can talk us down from this. And so I always enjoyed that. And I also realized that being a lawyer, when I got into law school, that every important decision ever made, particularly in America, every important decision will involve a lawyer. You cannot think of an important decision anybody has ever made in business, investment, or otherwise that has not involved a lawyer. And so if you want to be in the middle of everything, you want to go to law school. Now, when I got into law school, I didn't necessarily say I was going to open my own law firm. That came much later. What you really want to do is, when you're in an industry like this, is that you've got to really develop your talents. I mean, there is an opportunity cost for what I do, and it's very high. It's kind of like being an athlete in a way. You know, you can start off, but there's a lot of, I'm not sure I'm going to make it, but I'm going to have to go all in here. Let's say you're a great high school athlete and you get recruited to a college. Okay, let's say you get to top 20 college, right, to play football. It's not Texas, it's not USC, but maybe SMU's got you, right? Maybe TCU. TCU's pretty good now. I got to leave them alone. But maybe it's one of those schools, and then you don't know until you go there and you develop, and boom, all of a sudden, it turns out we got Tom Brady from Michigan. Well, I didn't know he was going to be that good. He was the last guy in the draft, right? So that happens all the time. So there is a cost of a barrier to get into this stuff, but if you can pull out from the other side, there's a big green pasture.
So let's double click into that. So going all in, it's been a common phrase that I've sort of refrained in my head multiple times over the last handful of years. What do you feel about the pattern of people in business who think that they are trying, but they actually haven't gone all in. And in their mind, it's kind of like going to the gym. It's like, oh yeah, you look at somebody who's out of shape and they say, I go to the gym all the time. It's like, time out. What do you mean you go to the gym all the time? You said your diet's good, but I see you eating cheesecake right now.
Right.
So is that last 5% of commitment, does that make all of the difference?
It does, because no one understands the value of just doing 10 push-ups a day for 40 years. Okay. They do it for a year, they do it for half a year, they do it for 4 years. But what if you did those 10 push-ups for 40 years? How would you be afterwards? The incremental change that you get from just your habits, I think there's some book about this, I don't know what it is, Small Habits, whatever it is, but I think they're right, which is you make incremental habitual changes. And those incremental changes over time manifest themselves into an all-in position.
Yep.
You can't, just like you start a little bit at a time, but eventually you have to, and all in doesn't mean you take wild, crazy, it doesn't mean you're just throwing a bomb from the 10-yard line every play, go deep, go deep, go deep. Not every play is a go deep play, right? You got to pick and choose your battles. You're not going to be playing quarterback very long if you're throwing the ball, 40 yards down the field because you can. That kind of guy is going to get pulled real quick, right? So you throw the bomb when you can, and if it works out, it works out. But you got to have that mentality. So it's a very you do have to be all in, and I'm all in a lot of different areas. But I believe that you have to be calculated when you go in.
No, that makes sense. I mean, I think the book you're referring to is Atomic Habits by James Clear. James Clear is outstanding. And I think one of the things in that book that talks about sort of reaching a level of critical mass, not expecting results before the inputs are sufficient. And I'm going to assume that the legal industry, same thing with the financial industry, is kind of similar to that. It's almost from a personal income standpoint, or from a business revenue standpoint, it takes years of execution before you actually see the financial rewards from building the business. Has it been similar in the legal field?
Very similar. And in my particular area, I mean, it's absolutely cyclical. And I'm absolutely, when you talk about going in, when you talk about suing a multi-billion-dollar company on a class action case, you can take any one of my cases, you're going to be litigating for 2, 3, 4, 5 years sometimes.
Wow.
6 years sometimes. I've got one of the biggest cases I'm working on right now is 6 years I've been working on this case. So, and you won't see a penny. I'm as lawyers say that I get paid, $1,000 an hour. How much do you get paid an hour? I get paid $850 an hour. Aashish, how much do you get paid per hour? And I said, well, I get paid perhaps.
Yeah.
And so it's a different field. I've got to win. If I don't win, there's no golden rainbow at the end. So when people look at class action lawyers and say, oh my God, I can't believe you made so much money on this case and it settled for X amount and you got X dollars, but you didn't understand all the work that went into that. On the surface it may appear that way, but just look under the iceberg, right? 80% of the iceberg is what? Under the water, right?
Yep.
If you're looking right at the iceberg, you don't know what you're looking at. You've got to go to the 80% underneath to figure out what actually is going on here. And so that's the nature of this field. So you've got to have delayed gratification is a big part of what I do. And I think delayed gratification is a big part of any successful business. Most businesses, financial or legal or otherwise, within 5 years are dead. They're dead meat. In 10 years, Jesus, you've got yourself a juggernaut.
How did you transition into that mindset? Was that something always that you had? Because I'm going to imagine at a certain point, you were probably very similar, starving. You're right, just spending as little money as possible so that I could make the career and the ultimate business work. Now you're talking about kicking the can down the field even longer. If you're talking about multi-year transition into earnings on certain cases, how did you scaffold that to make it work?
Very, very difficult.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'd
very
imagine.
carefully. That's where investments come in.
Mhm.
That help out. I'll be quite honest. My Tesla investment 5 years ago
Mhm.
was a very good deal for me. It helped rough out the edges a little bit.
Mm.
When you get a big hit, you've got to know you can't spend it all. You got to have a war chest. And see, that's another factor. It's like you're playing in the hedge fund market. Okay,
Mm.
it's great if you got 20, 30, 40 million dollars, but that's peanuts. You can't make anything move with that. There are guys who control 3, 4, 5 billion dollars, okay? And that's even peanuts, okay? If you're not BlackRock, if you're not State Street, Jane Street, if you're not Vanguard, 88% of the S&P is owned by what?
Mhm.
3 hedge funds, right? Jane Street, Vanguard, and BlackRock. That's it. That's 88%.
Mhm.
So, those are the big boys that are playing in there. So you've got to have a different kind of mindset when you do this.
Mhm. So, was there a part of your career, maybe in the beginning, where there was a fork in the road? Hey, I'm going to go down this direction, and I'm going to be okay with this types of earnings pattern, like lumpy. We'll call it lumpy earnings pattern. Or did you somehow just find yourself gravitating towards it, sort of, casually?
Well, it's like cooking a lobster. You boil him slowly so he doesn't notice, and then by the end he's in deep.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Got it.
I'm
got
the
it.
lobster that's in deep for
Yeah,
28 years. I always thought, no, I'll stop this next year. I'll go get a regular job with a paycheck and forget
Yeah.
this hassle. I've already lost most of my hair. I had nice hair like you when I started this. You wouldn't believe. It's all gone now, right? Because of all this. But looking back on it now, because I've had some victories and wins and all those kinds of things, I look back on it fondly. The book I wrote,
Yep. Got it right here.
it talks about the case that was my fork in the road. That case, it went this way, it'd be curtains for me. If it went this way, I'm sitting here talking to you. That's why I wrote the book.
So tell us about the book. So this was obviously a pivotal part in your career, and just for anybody listening, the book is titled "A Class Action: A Legal Fiction Based on a True Story." So this is representative of a fork in the road, and you're saying, "Hey, my chips were all in on the table. If this did not work out, I'd be a W-2 employee somewhere."
Yeah, probably at McDonald's.
Yeah.
It's a story about a young lawyer who is going through personal tragedy and is also at the same time trying to start his own law firm.
Mm.
I was a partner at a different law firm. Mac Poyfair, the character, was a partner at a law firm and started his own law firm right when he got a divorce. So he'd gotten a divorce and he had started his own law firm, and he had very little money, and he bet it all on a case. As a matter of fact, this young fictional lawyer had to put his house on the line. And if the case didn't work out, bye-bye house. So that's how much he had to believe in this case, which took a lot of twists and turns. In the book, the case lasts for 2 years. In real life, it lasted 5 years. So, it was a situation where you're having to pay out, and I have employees and costs and rent and mortgages and everything else that you might think to have. So, I really had to put in a lot of money and make the investment. I knew this was going to be a long-term play. You know how when you take a look at investments, you don't look at where the company is today, right? Wall Street never looks to today. Wall Street looks what? 12 months from now, where are you going to be? That's why everybody's projecting 12 months. It doesn't matter what. That's why people get confused when they bet on these earnings statements. And it's a terrible earnings statement. The stock shoots up. What happened? Well, that wasn't the point. That means that's behind them. What did they say at the earnings call afterwards? If the next quarter is going to be good, well, then the past is behind us and the future is ahead. So that can make the stock shoot up. So it's those kinds of things. It's all a game of expectations. And so it doesn't really matter what the number is. It's just a matter of where the expectations are.
What would you say is your general philosophy or philosophies that get you through those hard times where you have to push through a 5-year case without being compensated for your expenses?
Well, mentally, you can never expect it.
Mm-hmm.
Mentally, you never, and when it does happen, see, you've got the benefit of it working in the past, and so you always think it's going to work in the future. Let's take Kobe Bryant. Okay, he joined the Lakers. He wasn't going to win his first year. It's a 3-year project. Let's get Shaq here. Let's get him. Let's win a couple. Let's get in a fight with him. Let's break up this Batman Robin. Let's win it without him. Let's it's a rebuilding and building all the time. So if you've got a little history of success, I always say if it just takes the one shot. If you made the one shot, that's what all these movies, the 80s movies, the John Huston movies where the guy just does one thing, and then if he did this one thing, it's a pinnacle moment in his life, and it's going to make everything else work. Sometimes old guys like me, we think of life that way. If he would have just made that catch, everything would have been different. If he would have just gotten that hit, if he would have just gotten the A on that score, if he would have just gotten into that college, if he would have, whatever it is. And so you want to be there for that. And so you want to take that leap because you believe that it's possible.
So there's, in your mentality, there is, hey, I just have to get through enough of the mud to get that one win because that will compensate me plenty for all of the loss or the delay.
Have you ever read the book Blink?
Yep.
By Malcolm Gladwell. Okay. Blink is a great book because it shows you how, when athletes or anybody makes a move, you think, oh, what a great move, but you don't realize that it's years and years of practice that goes into making that move. When I took this case, you forget I'd been practicing law 13 years. You forget that I'd been specializing in wage and hour class action litigation when nobody else in Orange County had. You forget that I'd been reading this stuff for 13 years every day. And when I saw that violation on that pay stub, when that guy walked in my office, I knew dead bang I had a winner. Now, I had to convince a federal judge of that. I had to convince a multi-million-dollar company of that. But I had the knowledge that I was right. I have those skills. It's like Kobe got in the league, Michael got in the league. Neither one of them could shoot.
Right.
Neither one of them could shoot. They were terrible shooters. Let me tell you, at North Carolina, James Worthy made all the hot shots. Michael Jordan, Jesus, don't let him shoot. If he wants to jump up and dunk it, go ahead and dunk all you want. That's a 98% shot. But if you're going to take one outside 15 feet, pass that to Worthy, my friend. If I was his coach, that's what I told him. Right? It ain't going to work, my friend, because you're a terrible shot. But guess what he did? Went back and worked on his complete game and came back, and that's why you have the complete package. See, when you have the talent and you work, you can't stop it. And so what got me through that is just having that attitude, that mentality. I don't know why I have it. I don't know if it's an immigrant mentality. I don't know if it's where I grew up or how I obtained it, but as long as I've known me, I've always been like this.
Yeah, walk me through, what was your childhood like? When you mentioned where you grew up, but what was that like?
Grew up in Grand Prairie, Texas, a very, very small town. In the 60s, 70s, 80s. Spent most of my life there. Not much to it. Really not much to it. I never thought I'd be sitting here today. Like I said, I was very much, when I grew up, I had a very idyllic childhood. I grew up playing a lot of sports. We just walked out and played sports. We didn't know anything from cell phones or any of the other kind of stuff. One thing that was difficult for me until I got into probably, I'd say junior high or high school, I was an immigrant growing up in Grand Prairie, Texas.
Yeah.
So I wasn't exactly a good old boy, neither was my family. So being Indian and growing up in those days, there weren't any really other Indians. So there was a lot of prejudice then. But as I kind of worked through all of that, as I got good at anything, good at sports or good at guitar or anything else, or good at speaking or got better looking or whatever, all of a sudden I became accepted. And so from that point, I always just had a desire to achieve, and I really don't understand why, but I don't know that a lot of other people from Grand Prairie, Texas, are sitting here.
What if we had to pick a basketball player? Who do you most relate to from a mindset perspective, and why?
Well, it has to be Michael Jordan because he's offense, he's defense, he's the coach, he's always in charge, and frankly, he overcame all the obstacles, despite what anyone said. Now, you could say, well, what an obstinate guy, but he actually had the vision. He knew he had the vision. And so if you have the vision, you can get frustrated with things underneath, but you got to have the vision. And I will tell you this, Wes, okay? You meet a lot of people, and I've met a lot of people in life, business, law, everything else. They think they have it. You actually don't. That's the biggest lesson I would give most people. You think you have what it takes to start your own business? I promise you, you don't. You don't. Okay? I don't think you do, unless you prove it to me. I mean, I've been through it for 28 years, so most people are posers. That's the reality.
Yeah. Did you see the documentary on the Chicago Bulls? The Last Dance.
Last Dance,
yep.
Yes.
What was your favorite part?
The Last Dance. Well, not my favorite part, but the Scottie Pippen story always kind of irked me. Look, I'll tell you this. I coached a lot of basketball. Not a lot, but I coached youth sports.
Yeah.
So I did 7 years of AYSO soccer I coached.
Okay.
I coached 4 years of NJB basketball. And I coached 4 years of flag football. Okay. My son mainly, right, when we were growing up. And I loved this. In our last season of 8th grade, before you get to 9th grade and you're in high school, you need a real coach. So in 8th grade, we had the best team lined up. I had my son and 3 other people that we were gonna win the whole thing. And I remember watching The Last Dance. The documentary came out just about the same time.
Okay.
And you know what else came out at the same time? You'll remember this. COVID.
Yeah.
And so our season was ended. We never got our Last Dance. We had picked the team. In fact, we talked about this the other day. My son's back from college, and we were talking about it. And I said, we picked the team, we had the team, but then COVID hit. We never got to play.
Oh, man.
So, it kind of irked me. But back to that movie, that documentary, is I got to see, they had this vision for this triangle offense. And and it's never worked again, by the way. Who else has done the triangle? It's such a great offense.
It's a great point.
Who else has done it? So you can't, all these people come out with these great things, and I came up with this one, and Phil Jackson, he's credit. No, what you had was you had Michael Jordan on your team, man. It's like give and go. Just give it back to me. I'll make it happen. And if I don't, I'll make some. It's that thing from Blink, right? This guy just made a basket. He just went a game-winning shot. You put the mic around. Hey, what happened? Man, something happened here. I just threw up and it went in.
Yeah.
Like, what the? What? Excuse me?
Yeah.
It just went in because you can't explain it, right?
Yeah.
He can't explain that when he was bouncing the ball, he knew that judging from the speed of this guy, if he gave him a dip with the right, that he would come jumping up and he could fake him out with the left because he knew he didn't go left because he's never gone left. And so he'd jerk him out with that. And that all went through his mind in not even half a second.
Right.
So quickly, it's a blink. And he doesn't even know what happened. That's why interviews at the end of sports games are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Are absolutely absurd. They say the same stupid thing. They make no sense. You got to have a double-digit IQ to watch that stuff.
Yeah.
That's why most people that watch sports are idiots.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, I can understand. I mean, because if we dissect it, you're about
Homer
to go,
Simpson comes to mind.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you say that because, and this is nothing against people who watch sports. I also cannot watch sports.
I watch sports. I just don't want to see the interview of the guy.
Yeah.
And the bimbo who's going to say, well, how did it happen? What do you mean how did it happen? He caught the damn ball in the end zone, dummy.
Yeah.
What do you mean? You didn't see that? Well, how did you know to come back and take it? What do you mean? How would you get out of here with that stupid
Yeah.
question?
Well, to zoom in on what you were alluding to, being so good that it's in your muscle memory, so ingrained in your muscle memory that you can't even articulate what you did
Right.
at that critical point in time.
That's exactly right. And that's what it's like when I'm making a closing argument. That's what it's like when I'm in front of a judge and we've got to actually talk to people. It's probably what you're like when you're in a podcast. There's no script here. There's nobody going to tell you exactly what to say and how to say it and all that kind of stuff. You've got to come up with this stuff on the fly. And so if you know you're good at improvising, then that's what you do. You just throw yourself in there and then whatever happens, happens. And so that's what those kind of guys were, right? It wasn't the triangle offense. It was the fact that Michael Jordan could improvise like nobody else, okay? It had the same thing with Kobe, same thing with Steph Curry now, same thing with Tom Brady, same thing with, where else the next cool kid? I mean, Shador, okay? Take a look at the Sanders kids, okay? Shiloh and Shador. What do you think of them?
I, full candor, don't know much about football. Interested
Okay.
in the business case, though, about what is it? Name, image, and likeness, and how that's right. So
That's
I'm
right.
a fish out of
Yeah.
water here, but how that's changing the dynamic. But please, let's go down the road that you were talking about of these. I'm assuming anomalies in football.
Yeah, no, but to bring it back to business, you're right, Wes, is that we'll take a look at those guys, okay? Now, as far as I remember, college sports made a lot of money. Always, and I went to a big college football school, but it made all the money. The football program made all the money for that school, and it probably still does today. And that's the reason that the alumni is involved and all of that other kind of stuff. But you know who never made any money off of that are the athletes.
Yeah.
And these guys got used and abused. And you know, it's almost impossible to play college sports. Almost impossible. I mean, you know, if there are 3 guys out of, you know, Orange County that even get a real bid to play college football. And I'm not talking about some nonsense. I'm talking about UT or Michigan or Alabama or, you know, LSU. Yeah, I mean a real school where you got USC is a real school, you know, where you can make a shot at making the pros. And even at those schools, even at USC, they might have 1 or 2 guys that make it to the pros. Maybe. UT maybe has 1. A lot of times they have 0. A lot of times they have 0. And you're talking about a roster of 80 plus kids that'll all play there, all make tens of millions of dollars, if not hundreds of millions of dollars for whatever university you have, and they will get no money. So now the laws are changing. They understand they're not students. My God, students. Are you out of your mind? There's no way these guys are students. Like they can't put 10 words together in a sentence. How could they be a student? This is nonsensical, and half of them, they're like a Duke and, you know, all these great schools. These guys, you didn't make it. A couple of the guys did. But if you have a school that actually has the athletes that need to do well on, you know, schoolwork, you're going to have a losing program. You'll have Harvard. They can't win a football game. They're not Alabama. I mean, don't get me wrong. They're not bad, but it's a rec sport. Those guys aren't ever going pro. Maybe there's 1 or 2 guys that have ever gone pro, and the NFL freaks out about it. So there is a business angle to this, and I'm glad that the students have figured it out. And I'll tell you the other thing is that my friends have been involved with a lot of these wage and hour class action lawsuits against the NFL. And I even was involved early on in the concussion lawsuits against the NFL.
Okay.
And so I do know that there is an exploitation factor to this. There's a whole business angle to this. I mean, from my standpoint, I think it's great because I do believe that it'll open up a lot more wage and hour cases against universities in other sports. So, for example, you know, we may have this problem in the female soccer program at one of these colleges if it makes money off it, or, you know, if anybody would ever go to it. But in terms of, you know, in terms of the revenue sharing and all that kind of stuff, it's good that if you're not going to really, if you're not going to have them as real students, then and you're going to exploit them for money, that they should get some of that cash.
Well, and you were mentioning, and I agree with you, by the way. I mean, the idea, if you look at some of the data in professional sports, I mean, I just wish we would talk about this more. You have a kid growing up playing basketball, believe me, he's going to go and play for the NBA. Totally fair, and I admire the ambition. But to also not have a parallel conversation that says, hey, it's basically one out of, you name it, 2 million or whatever it is. And by the way, they're normally thinking of, I want to be the Michael Jordan, or I want to be the Kobe, or I want to be the Steph Curry, et cetera. It's like you're now talking about the extreme anomaly of the anomalies, right? I'm going to assume you look at most of these professional sports, and you're talking about a career maybe of 2 to 5 years, maybe.
That's right.
If you get into the professional leagues. And you take that salary, and you amortize it across, I don't know, the rest of your life, you are not wealthy. You are broke mathematically, is my guess.
There's a documentary called Broke.
Interesting. Really?
On Netflix.
Yeah.
The premise is some ungodly number, like 80% of all professional athletes are broke within 5 years of leaving their sport. It's like 80-some%.
80% broke within 5 years.
Broke within 5 years. And
yeah.
Of all sports. Because you're right, it doesn't last a lifetime. It's a 3-year deal. If you're lucky, could be one, you could break your leg, or you get the next cool kid comes up and then you're out of a job. So there's not a lot of job security. And from a business standpoint, it is a long shot of all long shots. It's a lot easier to become a lawyer than it is to be a pro athlete. That's for sure. A lot easier to become a doctor. A lot easier to become a lot of things that could get you more money. A financial planner, for example, anything.
Yeah. When I think what's fascinating behind it, the economics behind it, what you normally would not think of, what a kid would not think of who's ambitious and wants to go to the league, the NBA or the NFL, et cetera. Part of it is, I want the wealth, not knowing that the attorney who's built his business is a good one, right? Like, is dramatically more wealthy over time. Like, dramatically. It's not even close relative to the bulk of the athletes who are going in, by the way, only into the major, let's call it 4 sports. Because all the other sports, you're not really going to make any money. That's my assumption.
That's right. No, that's 100% right. And so you don't realize that over time, it's a better deal because the payout on the end is so large. Now, a lot of that is changed. For doctors are a great example. When I was growing up, a lot of my dad's friends were doctors. A lot of Indian people, for some reason, become doctors. Yeah. It's in our blood. We have a little bit of medical knowledge. I always tell everybody. I said, don't worry, I can help you. I got a little bit of medical knowledge just from being born. But when my dad's friends were all opening up their shops in Texas in the 70s, and even the 80s, but particularly the 70s, they could just open up a general practitioner, could open up a practice. People would come see him, and they'd make a killing. They'd make $500,000 a year back then, $500,000. I'm like, wow, in 1978, you're going to make $640,000. Yeah. That's like, that was better than Michael Jordan, right?
Yeah.
And so nobody knew, right? But now today, my Indian doctor friends, not my dad's Indian doctor friends, they will go and you'll go work for a big HMO, and they'll start you off making, $180,000 a year, which is not bad, but it's certainly not, $600,000 a year, and by the way, they'll probably cap you off at $300,000.
Yep.
Maybe $253,000. I'm not saying that's bad money, but if you consider all the time and energy and effort that went into making $300,000, I wonder if that doctor would have done it. And lo and behold, med schools are not as full as I think they used to because of that, because we're not paying them commensurately.
Well, especially at the general practitioner level, when you're coming from a mountain's worth of debt into a level of earnings that's just not justifying $500,000 in debt. At 7% interest, it's crazy.
Well, the same thing happens with lawyers too. There are only so many lawyers that get jobs at these big hotshot firms.
Right.
That's it's less than 10%, by the way, because these big law firms, they can hire whoever they want. They take the top 10% of the top 10% of the schools. What does that mean? That means 90% of the lawyers they didn't get the job at the big law firm, right? And so 90% of people do not work at those kind of firms. And that's what people miss. They think that, oh, you go to law school and you get a job at a big hotshot firm and then your career's set. It doesn't work quite like that.
Yeah, and I want to backtrack because I'm curious about an attorney's point of view on this. You mentioned Scottie Pippen during The Last Dance, and you said that was one of your favorite parts. I'm assuming part of it was Scottie's arguably second best in the league-ish, and from my recollection, not very well compensated, commensurately with being the second best in the league. However, from my understanding, it was because he signed a guaranteed contract early on in his career, and he chose to take the guarantee. But then when the guarantee doesn't work out in his favor, now I'm pissed. I don't want to play. Walk me through the legal side of that, maybe just at a high level, but then also walk me through the business side of that.
Well, I'll walk you through the reality of what happened. Okay. Scottie Pippen was this poorer than poor kid from, I think, Alla, Arkansas.
Yep.
Okay. Played for maybe Midwestern Arkansas State University, minor, maybe junior college. Walked on, family of I don't know, 8 kids or something. Yep. He really didn't have anything to his name.
Yep. 2 handicapped people in that immediate family.
Was not sophisticated, to say the least, and was very likely surely taken advantage of by Jerry Krause, who was a sharp, I'm going to get my guy at the cheapest level. And in those days, just like musicians, a lot of musicians got exploited. Half the Rolling Stones songs, by the way, are copies.
Oh, interesting.
They didn't write them.
I didn't know that.
They didn't write them. At least the Rolling Stones had sense enough. They'd have the black blues guy at least come open up for them. Okay? Now, Elvis Presley, that dude just stole from the black people, pretending like he wrote and sang all of them himself.
Wow.
Those were covers that he was singing. But because it was a white guy who looked good, people went crazy. It was repackaged. But guess what? From a business standpoint, all these guys got screwed. So, look, these are the kinds of things. That's why I'm happy to be a lawyer now, okay? Because I see these kinds of injustices, and this is where I get fired up and say, look, this is where I can come in and make a difference. Now, as I told someone the other day, I never realized that representing low-wage workers was going to make me rich. But so it did. Because there's a lot of people that don't pay low-wage workers what they should be paid and what they fairly should be paid. And so I see business opportunity in all of this. And like you said, to walk you through the Scottie Pippen contract, I mean, the guy was making a league minimum. The guy told him he would renegotiate it, and he lied to him, and he didn't renegotiate it. And he was, like you said, arguably the second most important player on that team. He certainly was the second most important player on the team, and Michael Jordan himself would tell you he could not have won the championship without him. The guy was scoring 20, 30 points a game. There were some games where he took over as the MVP when Michael wasn't there. And let me tell you, without those 20, 30 points, you can't have one guy do it all.
Right.
Ask Kevin Garnett that. How many championships has he won?
Right.
So, ask Allen Iverson, scoring 70 points a night, 60 points a night, 50 points a night. How many championships did you win, AI? You're the answer.
Yeah.
You're the answer. Where's the answer?
Yeah.
Answer's not here. No answer. So, from those kind of situations, I can see the power that management has over its players. And in that case, he just wasn't sophisticated enough, didn't have a good enough team, didn't have any kind of management. You say he signed a deal when he was 22 years old, and now he's got to live with the deal for 10 years. Everybody else comes back and renegotiates it.
Right.
Okay, and guess what? If he would have broke his leg, guess who would have been the first one to break that contract? The Chicago Bulls. What about your commitment to keep for 10 years? Well, not if you can't play.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah, because I think there's one side of which when I first heard that case, not being an attorney, obviously, it was like, well, I guess there's a legal side, and it seems like it played out like, hey, you signed this contract, you took the guarantee.
They always play that game. They always say you signed that contract, too bad, so sad. But if that guy breaks his leg and can't play, they're not going to pay him.
Right.
You're not going to honor your contract, but unless it's a guarantee. Now they got the guaranteed minimum, but before then, you're not going to pay him. So where's the loyalty the other way? The team has zero loyalty to you. You should have zero loyalty to the team. Now the players of today, guess what? They figured it out. I don't even know who's playing on any team.
Yeah.
I gotta, my fantasy football is who knows.
Yeah.
I just gotta pick up a thing and let an auto pick.
Right.
I don't know who's playing for what team. It used to be I would pull for the Dallas Cowboys was my team. I want every Cowboy. I knew everybody. Mm-hmm. But nowadays, I don't even know if Dak is going to be the starting quarterback. That's how crazy it is because who cares anymore? The players understand that it's all a game. It's all entertainment. Half of it, you're just betting for the prop bets now. Right. The kids don't even watch the full game. In fact, nowadays, having seen this, the 2-minute red zone offense. I can't, unless it's my Dallas Cowboys, I only want to watch the good plays. Red zone, right?
Yeah.
Nobody watches a full game. Do you watch a full game?
I don't watch any game.
Okay. Yeah, I'm talking to the wrong guy. Okay, unless it's my Cowboys, it's an important game, a playoff or a Super Bowl or something like that. I'm not going to watch 4 hours to watch a dull, 4-hour thing when I can go to right here and watch it. So, even the NFL understands it's got no loyalty to anybody. They will sell their stuff. The 2-minute red zone thing, by the way, is screwed over, talking from a business standpoint. ABC, CBS, and NBC, the 3 networks that had them. Fox also had a big deal. They're all done. They're all done. The NFL is now making deals with who? Netflix and YouTube.
Yep, and Amazon.
And when they go streaming, it's over for the networks. The sports were the last bastion for the networks. From a business standpoint, nobody watches anything on there anyway. And certainly not when they come on. The one thing anybody watched was sports.
Yep.
And now they don't have that.
Yeah, I mean, full transparency, the reason I don't watch sports is because I was super poor when I was growing up. And somehow I got in my head, it's like, I cannot sit there and watch other men get rich, especially during my free time, right? Where I grew up, and there's nothing wrong with this, so I'm not making a judgment. But where I grew up, Friday night was high school football.
Yeah.
Friday night lights.
Where'd you grow up?
Philadelphia, right outside of Philadelphia.
Okay, yeah.
Friday night was what do they call it? Friday night lights.
Friday night lights.
Right? Saturday, all day, college football. Sunday, all day, NFL.
Yeah.
And then there would be a general low-key buzz of complaints from my peers and their fathers. How can I get ahead? It's like, well, because you spend, and this is not a judgment, but it's just mathematical. You spend almost all of your free time on watching other people perform.
No, you're right on that. Now maybe this 2-minute red zone would help that.
Yes. Well, doesn't the ball in football, I've read in the Wall Street Journal years ago, that the ball in football, in a professional football game, only moves, it's for something crazy, it's like 14 minutes, if not 7 minutes, out of the 3.5 hours.
The entire game, I used to tell my kid, when I was coaching, I used to tell these kids this, okay? That was flag football, okay? But I pretended I was a real football coach.
Yeah,
they didn't know. They're 10. They don't know.
You got the headset on, the clipboard, everything.
That's the whole thing. They all think you're the real coach. That's the beauty of 10-year-olds. Coach Aashish, what? I said, guys. I used to make a quiz out of it. I said, the football game that's on right now. Oh yeah. How long is that? 4 hours, sir. No. 3.5. No. I said, from play to, if you just had the plays, took out the commercials, everything else, how long do you think a game is? You never would get it, but you're right. It's about 13 minutes.
There you go.
Okay.
Yep.
And put the second point on it. Okay. How long do you think a play is? What's the average play?
Oh, I have no
average
clue.
Play is 4 seconds.
Yeah.
All you've got to be is good for 4 seconds, and the play's over. Can you give me 4 seconds?
Love it.
Right? That was my whole argument, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a fiction, I think is what your point is. It's a fiction. And you're keeping your interest, but you don't realize you're watching, 30 minutes of advertisement.
Right.
You're watching beer commercials and truck ads for 30 minutes. Then you're listening to two guys pontificate about nonsense for about another 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You get to the actual playtime, you're right, it's 13 minutes of actual action.
Wild.
Actual action, which is hard to believe, but it's absolutely true. So, there's another great book I like for business. It's Stephen Covey,
Okay.
The Seven
Yep.
Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yep.
And the best one I like out of that, I'm sure you've read it, you look like you've read them all, is start with the end in mind.
Yep.
Now, if your end in mind is to make a lot of money, how you get there, you got to have a profession. You got to have, what am I good at? Well, if I'm not good at sports, maybe I'm good at numbers. Well, maybe I could do this. Well, I'm good at talking. Maybe I could do sales. Maybe whatever it is you're good at, you find, start with the end in mind.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to be a lawyer, if I want to be a guitar player, if I want to be, an engineer, if I want to be a doctor, you start with that. If you want to be, whatever you want to be. But then you got to work backwards and figure out how you're going to get there. That might be college, it might be this, might be that. But once you break it down and you actually have a plan, you're going to find that plan doesn't involve, 10 hours of football on Sunday.
Yep.
Maybe 3 hours of football on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying it does. I mean, sports, I use it as an analogy because it's such a good business analogy. When I talk to people in the business world, when I talk to other lawyers, when I talk to other people. And the reason I taught it is because, or coached sports, is because it is an analogy for life. It is a way to get, teamwork makes the dream work.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to work hard if you want to expect results. That's why people use these analogies so often in business, because it does teach you about life.
Oh, I think the parallels between business and sports, I mean, you're exactly right, in my opinion. I was talking to somebody recently, and my number one thing is competition. I'm obsessed with competition. I want to be the best at that handful of games that I want to play. Mm-hmm. And I got into a debate recently, and somebody says, "Oh, like, why do those trophies matter?" It's like, yeah, you're right. Trophies don't matter to people who've never won them, right? Because trophies are symbols of a body of work that was executed at the highest levels within that domain. Similarly, Jordan, during that documentary, The Last Dance, said, I never asked anybody to do anything that I didn't myself do. And he also said something along the lines of like, yeah, I might get critiqued by a lot of people, but those people haven't won anything, right? It is different to say, I want to play basketball. That is different than saying, I want to win all of basketball for eternity, which is what Jordan wanted.
Right.
That requires a different level of commitment and execution.
If Wilt Chamberlain would have said something to Michael, he would have listened to him. But if the yahoos that are writing, oh, how dare you, and there's this great thing about how he missed more fourth quarter shots than he made. Mm-hmm. The buzzer beaters, people think he made all the buzzer beaters. Turns out he didn't. Turns out he was, maybe like 30%, at the buzzer. I mean, 70% of the times he missed. Mm-hmm. He missed. So, it's like you said, he would lead by example. Now, it was easy for him to say, I'm not asking you to do anything I don't do. You know why he would say that? It's because there was no harder worker than Jordan.
Yep.
Nobody was harder than him. And you get in a group of people, a group of guys, a business situation, and you'll see people that really work hard. They do extra work. They put in the time. You can see it. Mm-hmm. Just like, if I'm coaching, even at 10, 11, 12, I could see it. Mm-hmm. When I'm coaching these kids, doing whether it's football, basketball, soccer, you can tell the kids who are really, a little bit better, and then you can tell the kids who really work harder, and the guys who are running hard, and the guys who are kind of mailing it in. Mm-hmm. And so Jordan was the guy who had the marriage of the talent and the work ethic. And you got to have both. Famously somebody said, 80% of life is just showing up.
Yep, 100%.
Right, so just being there to do it. But if you're like Jordan, and he did lead by example, and that's why I do like that example.
Yeah, absolutely. To kind of come full circle here, the business of your practice. Let me know if I'm off here. I have noticed, because I've talked with and worked with a lot of business owners, one X factor of just a few is their ability to market, to get business in the door. I've noticed that be a chokehold. That is a chokehold for a lot of potential business owners, right? A lot of times people say like, oh, I'll just go and start my own business. Okay, great, go ahead, right? I almost guarantee that you will get stuck at actually getting the business in the door. You can practice the science of the craft, but can you actually get people in the door so you even get a chance to practice the science of the craft?
In the legal field, you need 3 roles for any case: the finder, the minder, and the grinder.
Yeah, walk us through that.
Okay. So you need someone who can find you the cases, right? He's the rainmaker, they call him. Okay. He's the guy that goes out and gets you all your cases, glad hands, knows people in the community, get referrals coming in. Okay. The minder is kind of the partner on the case. He's making sure strategy-wise it's going in the right direction. Where's the complaint? Have we filed for class cert yet? Gotten the depositions taken? What's the size of the class? Where are we going with settlement? Then you have the grinder. The grinder is the day-to-day. The day-to-day operation of a business means every day you're calling, what's going on? Do we have the discovery back? Reviewing documents, matching them up with payroll records, doing all of those types of things. So you really need all 3 to make it work. And if you want to have a smaller firm, as I said, when I started, I was all 3 in one. I was the finder, minder, and grinder. I had to be, right, when I started my firm in the book that you have. I do have a lawyer that works with me now. She's been with me for over 10 years, but she works more part-time. I mean, she works more than that, but really even for the day-to-day, I am still here, 28 years later, because I'm doing what Michael Jordan did. I'm leading by example. I'm not at home and just goofing off. I mean, you've got to lead by example in everything that you do, and so. I've had that mindset throughout my entire life, and it's really true. It's what you do when people are not looking that matters. That's what makes you a success. Because when people are looking at you, it's easy for people to put their fresh face forward, to say all the right things, to act the right way, to kind of work when people are there watching you. But it's when people are not there, what can you do? And that, to me, is a difference between real success and, fake success.
What would you say is your next big vision for yourself? You mentioned 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, begin with the end in mind. I have felt that for me, that's an iterative process. Once you never reach the horizon because it keeps on moving away from you. So once you get there, you're like, okay, this is great, but I want more. And I think that's a great thing. I think it encompasses the American experience and the American spirit. What's that next journey for you?
Good question. I'd have to think about that. I've never really thought about it. For me, I've got 2 kids in college now. Since I'm not married, I'm a true empty nester. So I can go in many different directions. But my law firm is going great. It's moving in the right direction. I am getting older. I'm 56. I'll be 57 by the end of this year. So do I want to do this for the rest of my life? We'll see. I'll want to, in some capacity, I know I'll always want to have a law firm. I'll always want to have a law practice. Now, maybe I will not go as hard on the big cases that I have, take on maybe not the cases that take 5-6 years to resolve, maybe smaller cases to keep it going. I'd like to do that, and anything else that happens, I'm very much of a I keep the engine rolling, and I take advantage of opportunities as they come. I've always been that way. I'll probably do something more with music as well.
Yeah, because when we looked into your background, musician, also past background in teaching, right, at university. Would you want to do something similar in the future?
That'd be a great thing. I was a law professor at Chapman Law
Hmm.
School for 2 years, and I would certainly want to do something like that
Yeah.
again. That was always a lot of fun. I've spoken at a lot of conferences and seminars my entire life. Even that book, if you read it, it's kind of a how to litigate a wage and hour class action as
Mhm.
much as it is the personal story. I wanted to marry those two ideas in mind. And I know the book is not necessarily for everybody because it is in the minutia of class action litigation, but I did that intentionally because I knew my audience. My audience is other lawyers and people in the legal field, really.
Mhm.
I mean, it can be larger than that. It can be David versus Goliath story, and maybe if somebody in uh, when I go back to my Hollywood Hills house, if somebody wants to call me, a la Grisham, and say, "Hey, we'd like to make a movie out of
Yeah,
your
yeah,
book," wouldn't that be a great dream? Maybe
yeah,
Wes, could you make that happen? So if that happens, I'll go
yeah,
sell my script and have Tom Cruise, help direct him in
yeah,
my
yeah,
role.
yeah, yeah.
So. But in terms of what I'm going to do, I'm going to do what I always do. I'm a creature of habits. I do before this Atomic Habits guy came around, I was the original Atomic Habits because do you
Mm.
know why? When I turned 14 years old, I made two promises to myself. Okay? I don't know why. I remember this because it's one of these stupid kid stories that you say to yourself
Mhm.
like a mantra. And when I was 14 years old, I said, Aashish, I'm 14 now. Time for me to get my life in order, right? And I said, okay, here are the two things I'm going to do for the rest of my life, every day, without fail. I'm not going to miss a day. Number one, I'm going to work out every day. I had a weight set. I'm a
Mhm.
big fan of lifting weights. And number two, I'm going to play my guitar.
Mm.
Okay. So I'm 57. It's been 42 years. I can check back with very, very limited failures.
Mhm.
I have done that.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Every
think.
day. It's like brushing my teeth. I can't even function if I don't. I have a guitar in my office,
Yeah,
as a matter
solid.
of fact.
Yeah,
I'll play my guitar and I'll work out every day.
absolutely love it. We've probably read a lot of the same books, and I found that to be a common thread. Um, I think a business can be broken down. One of the lenses is projects, habits, and actions.
Uh-huh.
And
That's good.
and habits need to account for the bulk of that activity. And if it's not, it's freaking chaos. It's almost like you're restarting. Now you still need projects and actions, but habitual actions I think are the most profound at the human level and at the business level.
That's right. Because, see, I didn't even think about it, but now that you mention it, when I come to the office, the other habit I have is there's a legal newspaper here.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the Daily Journal. Now, not everybody reads it, but now that I've thought about it, I've read it every morning for 28 years.
Mm-hmm.
Or, when it comes out Monday through Friday, that's the first thing I do is I read it, either online or there, to you see who is doing what to whom.
Mm.
It's the legal community rag. Then, then I go read these cases. I go look at that. Then I go, but I haven't realized this, but this has become a habit of mine. And what it's done is over a span of years and years and years and decades and decades and decades now, I'm going on my third decade, it will give you a level of legal knowledge now
Mm-hmm.
that you wouldn't have otherwise had.
Yeah.
I don't have to read that. A lawyer, once you become a lawyer, there's no requirement to read the legal newspaper. In fact, I ventured that 8 out of 10 people don't even read that every day. They have a very small reading, even though it's for everybody. But that's one of the things I do every day. If there's an opinion, I'll come out and read the opinion front to back, even still to this day, 28 years later, even though I could just get the head notes from it. Because to me, it's interesting. I like to see how they wrote it. I like to see the writing. I like it. To me, it's almost a work of art.
Mm-hmm.
Where do they put a semicolon? Oh my God! Look at the way he punctuated that. Look at he phrased this, and I mean,
Yeah.
to me, it's like unbelievable. It's like I'm listening to a song, and when I'm trying to figure it out on guitar, I go, oh, he went to the relative minor, Oh, then he came up, and then, oh, look at this major third over here. And it's, you're figuring out a puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to keep that sense of adventure in this thing so that I don't get burnt out. I'm not the burnt out 28-year lawyer who comes in here schlepping a old cup of, oh, not this crap again, shit. No, this is an adventure every day.
Yeah, it's so fascinating because this is where I think the business and sports analogy breaks down. So hear me out on this, because oftentimes, like with sports, you have a natural, very short duration of execution, right? Even the best only last a handful of years. The best of the best, let's say, last 10, and now you have LeBron lasting 20-ish years, right? But that's an extreme anomaly.
Yeah, no.
And why the reason I love business so much is that you can do business your entire life. You're talking about many decades of execution. So, and to your point, Aashish, if you can learn the fine art of not redlining to where you get burnt out. So you bring it into that 80% zone, which doesn't sound very sexy, but you bring it in that 80% zone every day for 40 years, that level of compounding is unbeatable, right? Imagine Michael Jordan was able to stay in his physical prime for 40 years of execution. How asymmetrical his performance would be relative to the average basketball player. And that's why I love business so much.
Exactly right, Wes. I saw a meme the other day, and it said, what people think consistency is. And it showed 10 glasses of water all filled up exactly to the same level. Okay? And then underneath that, it broke off the picture, and it said underneath that, it says, now this is what consistency is really. And it showed water glasses, some 5% full, 10% full, all full, 50% up, down.
Yep.
Right? And that's really what consistency is. I'm not going to go in there and work out for 2 hours every day. In fact, today my workouts last 15 minutes. That's all I need. I've got a gym at my house. I don't do 3 sets of 10. You got your mind? I do 1 set of 10. 1 set of 10 curls, 1 set of 10 bench, 1 set of 10 this, if I'm even lucky. Plank, do some squats. 10, 15 minutes, I am done. Because I've spent 42 years working. I did the 2-a-days and 3 hours and a half an hour here. I've done all that, so my body is now in the shape where all it needs now is that just go in there, refine it, right? You've done this now for so long. I can get in and get out very quickly. I'm efficient with my time, and I can use it, and it makes me feel good. And most importantly, most importantly, do not set unreasonable expectations where you're going to do it for a month or two, and then you're going to drop off and feel bad about yourself that you didn't go in there and do 3 sets of 10, and oh no, I didn't do this, and then you're just not going to do it. If you do something that you can actually do, could you give me 10 push-ups a day? No matter what, could you just, if you fail at everything else, do 30 push-ups and 30 sit-ups. If you fail at everything else, do that. No matter what time of the day it is, that's good enough.
Yeah, Tim Ferriss talks about this. The 2 quotes that come to mind from him is like minimal effective dose, and then also the good plan that you follow is better than the great plan that you don't. And you do that over a long enough time, and you're unbeatable. I mean, the rest of your competition, it's almost easy to a certain extent. If you can solve for the ordinary actions done over an extraordinary period of time, it's almost easy to beat people. The hard part is actually doing it for a long period of time.
No one can stop the man with the plan because no one has the plan to stop him.
Yeah. Yep. Love it. Absolutely love it. What resources, as we wrap up here, what resources have you fallen back on? Like, what books do you like? What podcasts? So you can help the listeners out there.
What books do I like? Probably the best 3 books that I would tell people. Number 1, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Just told the interns 2 days ago to read that book. Yep.
Single best book you'll ever read. Why? The lesson is people only have one motivation in life. What is that motivation? The drive to be
Oh, I don't know.
important.
Awesome. Love it.
Okay, that's it. That's their only motivation. You make them feel important, you got the world by your hands. Okay.
And the sound of the one I took away from that book was like the sweetest sound to somebody is the sound of their own name.
You're right, Wes.
Yeah.
Number 2 best book I would buy is The Black Swan by, I think is Nassim Taleb.
Yep.
And that is the theory that you don't know what you don't know. Now, everybody went for years and years, thought that all swans were white. We went, decades and hundreds of years. Turns out they're black swans. Who knew? Stock market. People think that there'll never be a big event in the stock market. It won't move it around. Turns out every year there is a black swan event in the stock market. As a matter of fact, most stocks make 80% of their revenue in like a handful of days. 3, 4, 5 days. That's it. If you're not in the market on those 3 or 4 or 5 days, you're done. And so people say, well, you don't expect these fluctuations to happen, but I say you should expect them all the time. You should always expect there to be fluctuations. Why? Because there's a black swan. There's a black swan event every year, and more than one. Okay, there's a flood, there's this, there's that, there's tariffs, there's Elon going nuts, there's whatever is going on, right? You're killing me, by the way. I'm just trying to pull Elon down. I'm with you, but could you just, come on, let's go back to the business a little bit, okay? We can't solve every problem. But, he's that's another guy. He's just single-minded about this stuff. And so that's another great book. And for my third book, I'd say Outliers.
By Malcolm Gladwell?
By Malcolm Gladwell, who's probably my favorite, next to John Grisham, who I've read all from my, this is besides my book, of course.
That's
Wes,
right.
right?
That's right.
I mean,
we'll
you
put
put
that at the top of the list right there.
But Outliers, I like that because what he tells you in Outliers, he says, there's a graph, statistical graph in all mathematics, and everything works out. But then you have a couple of dots that don't make any sense. Well, Professor, what's that? Don't mind those. Those are outliers. You can forget about them. Well, but the outliers are Michael Jordan.
Yep.
Outliers are Elon Musk. Outliers are Bill Gates. Outliers are, Donald Trump. What makes these guys outliers is what the book studies. And so if you want to be an outlier, it's a good read.
Love it. Absolutely outstanding. Any podcasts you recommend?
I like the All In podcast.
Yep.
I'm a fan of Howard Stern. I think he's very insightful. I like Joe Rogan a lot for pop culture. I like all podcasts. If you name a podcast, I've probably listened to it. I've been listening to talk radio for, as long as it's been around, 30, 40 years. And I just like to debate. Anybody who likes to talk and to debate, and like we were talking, Wes, earlier about the long form, I hope that does come back.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Just some classics in there. Have you ever read the book Relentless by Tim Grover?
I've heard of it, but I have not read it.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, so that's Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant's trainer. Wrote a book about the mindset. It's just phenomenal. Probably my top 5 favorite books, if not one, depending on the season of life I'm in.
A little easier when your subjects are Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant.
Yep, and Dwayne Wade. Yep, 100%.
Hey guys, what's the next play? Well, let's make it in the basket next time.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I coached him up.
Yeah, one of my two big takeaways from that book: crave the result so bad that the work is irrelevant.
Yeah,
absolutely love that quote. And then secondly was this little part of the book where Tim Grover pitched Michael Jordan on him being his trainer. Right? Michael Jordan says yes, and on their exit out of the house, Michael turns to Tim and says, "Look, I'll do whatever you want, but don't give me any of the bullshit. I only want to do the stuff that works." Which is why, Aashish, we're having this kind of conversation. I want to talk to real business owners who are executing in the wild, because oftentimes that's not what is in academic textbooks. It's not. Well, you and I both know that what we learned in college, right? There's a sliver of that is relevant, but there's this vast part of the pie, to your point earlier, that's you don't know what you don't know. And that's why I want to have these conversations.
You want to know the level of, just as a last point before
Yeah,
we get
please.
out of here, the last non sequitur of lawyers. This is so funny, okay? How do you get prepared to become a lawyer, okay? Well, of course, when you're in college, you major in political science, right? Guess what? Whatever you major in, particularly political science or anything else in college, has nothing else to do with the next step, which is you got to take the LSAT. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So you study for the LSAT, but your political science had nothing to do with that. So you study for the LSAT. You say, great, I studied. Now I know the LSAT. I did very well on the LSAT. What happens now? I go to law school. Oh, well, the law school has nothing to do with the LSAT. Forget that. This is law school now, son. Okay, now I'm in law school. Well, I go to law school for 3 years. I'm getting ready. Well, no. Before you become a lawyer, you got to take the bar exam. Oh, okay, great. Well, but by the way, everything you learn in law school has nothing to do with the bar exam.
Yeah, nice.
Nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
So you say, okay, great. Well, then I'll study for the bar exam. That must be it. So you study. You do great on the bar exam. All right? And then you finish the bar exam and you meet with the lawyers and they say, oh, that bar exam has nothing to do with the practice of law.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
What have you done through
Yeah.
this entire process to get ready to be a lawyer? Answer, nothing. You've gone through a fraternity initiation.
Yeah.
You've gotten A's for 18 years
Yeah.
to get into the profession. So there is a lot of, and what it does for your mindset, it does give you small goals that you have to reach in order to get to the finish line. And even though you think those are irrelevant goals, and they may well be irrelevant goals, much like the fraternity who's making the pledge class do this, but with an end of mind of having the teamwork afterwards, that's what happens with the lawyer. They teach them to become, if you do it right, relentless and hardworking and understanding that, there are no days off because you've coached them up to be that. And, in some ways, it's a very demanding profession because it's an antagonistic profession because it's unlike doctors or engineers or podcasters or other people that like to collaborate with each other. Lawyers like to kill each other. It's the only profession where you're killing each other. I guess much like sports.
Yeah.
Right? Much like, in that sense, you are, right? You're trying to get the other guy, and there's a point system, and one of you is going to win, and one of you is going to lose. And so maybe that's why I like sports as an analogy to the legal field so much.
Oh, I love it. Aashish, well, thank you, because it's been an amazing journey for me to hear, here's a guy who's built his own business, who is, and I say this in a complimentary way, a polymath, who you can read books on the side, you're in a band on the side, you've written a book on this, like all of these things, and you've cracked the code on how can I be successful and still have a life outside of my business while still having a successful business. So thank you so much. This has been a real honor.
Thank you, Wes. It's been fantastic.
All righty, sir. Appreciate it.